These days, more and more of our time is spent online. And just like when you're out in the community, in the physical world, it's important that we are aware of our personal safety when we're online, interacting with others. When we interact online, we often create a social identity. And the thing about being online is that you can kind of be whoever you want. You can present yourself in the most idealized way. You can be your best self and put your best foot forward. But it's also important to remember that that's an actively constructed presentation. And it's not always the most realistic. We may present ourselves this way to express our feelings or to express different sides of our personality. Maybe there are things that we don't feel fully comfortable sharing in the physical world, but we feel more comfortable sharing it online. It gives us power to kind of shape ourselves into who we really want to be. And there's some power in that, there's some beauty in that, but it's important to remember that just like you might be putting your best self forward, and it might not be how you are every single day, others might be doing that too. So when we see a lot of edited pictures or people doing all these fun and exciting things, it's important to remember that that's not every single day. That might not be the whole picture. And so it's important to keep that framework as we interact online and as we present ourselves online. It's also important to remember that a lot of people recognize that they can kind of have some anonymity online, that they can kind of hide behind a screen. And sometimes that means that people say things or post things that they wouldn't normally say or talk about in the physical world. So it's important when you're creating your online identity, when you are saying things and posting things, to think about, is this something that I would say if I was in person? If I was talking to someone face to face? And if it's not, maybe consider if it's really worth posting. So as we are crafting our online profiles and personalities, it's important to consider what we want to share and what we probably shouldn't share. Again, it's just like the physical world. There are some things that you might talk to your friends about, and there are other things that you might not share, even in person. So when you're online and you're putting together your profile, it's okay to share things like your hobbies, your interests, activities that you enjoy, especially because this can help you connect with others online or find communities online. However, it's not okay to share your address, your age, your birthday, passwords, medical information. Again, anything that you wouldn't want to share in the physical world either. There are other things that it's important to be intentional about. They're not necessarily things you shouldn't post, but they're things to think about first. That might be your full name. It might be more helpful to use a screen name so that people can't figure out who you are. And you may also want to consider posting pictures of yourself, your friends, your family. That might not always be the best option. It's just something to think more deeply about. And if you aren't sure if you want to post something, I always recommend talking to a trusted adult and getting their advice on it. It's also important to remember that you often have the power to determine if your profile on whatever site you're using is private or public. So it's important to figure out the privacy of that specific app or specific site and figure out if you want to be private on there. I recommend being private, especially on things like Facebook or Instagram, where you have to approve who sees your content. I think that often helps keep us safe, but it's something to consider. So again, as you are considering what you want to post online, I recommend thinking, is this something that I would say in the physical world to someone in person? Is this a photo that I would share with my friends or with general people out in the community? And if it's not, consider not posting it. Because each and every one of us, when we interact online, when we post things, when we share things, each of us creates a digital footprint. A digital footprint is a record of what you do online, including all of the sites that you visited and the things that you've shared. Now, here's the thing that people don't always realize. Even after you delete something, it can sometimes still be found in archives or behind the scenes. So again, it's really important to be intentional about how you're presenting yourself and the things that you're posting. Because you want to think about, is this something that I would be comfortable with having on the internet potentially forever? And if you're not, maybe don't post it. The next thing I want to talk about is online friendships. A lot of people find online communities and friendships and relationships to be really fulfilling. Sometimes it's easier to interact with people online because there's less anxiety, there's less pressure when you're behind the scene. Sometimes we feel that way, and that's okay, but it's important to remember, again, that everybody is crafting their online persona. And that if we don't know somebody in person, we shouldn't share any personal information with them. We can be whoever we want to be online, but unfortunately, that means that sometimes the friends that we're making and the people that we're talking to are not really who they say they are. We wish that everyone we met was exactly who they said they were and was super realistic and authentic and wonderful, but that's not always the case. And we have to protect ourselves in those chances that it's not. So, if you have an online friendship, if you have an online relationship, make sure that you let somebody know about that situation. Let a trusted adult know, hey, I found this really cool person online. I'm really enjoying talking to them. And they might be able to tell you if there's any red flags or if that person seems to be authentic. Other tips for developing those online interactions, maybe using a screen name. I mentioned that earlier. That can be helpful to not give away too much personal information. Now, if you decide that you want to meet an online friend in person, maybe there's somebody local to you, or you think they're local to you, because hopefully you're not sharing your address, make sure that you tell a trusted adult that you want to do that. And I would even recommend having somebody come with you. And if you decide to do this, you also want to make sure that you meet in a public place. Again, don't ever give out your address. Don't have somebody come to your house if you don't know them. And don't go to their house if you don't know them. Make sure someone is with you and you meet in a public place. It's always a little bit risky to meet an online friend, but I also know it's not realistic to think that that's never going to happen or that you're not going to have that desire. So if you do, make sure that you do so safely and that you let somebody know what's going on. It's also really important to be wary of impersonators, and I'm mostly talking about celebrities. There are so many content creators and celebrities out there, and when you really connect with somebody's art or content, it can feel really personal. It can make you feel like you have a really personal connection to that person. But it's important to remember that they have millions of fans sometimes. And although you feel like you know them really well, they don't know you. And so you want to make sure that you are never giving money or personal information to someone who says that they're a celebrity, who says that they're this person that you're a fan of. Because unfortunately, there are a lot of accounts out there who pretend to be celebrities. So if you are having private conversations with Taylor Swift, maybe check with a trusted adult, because it's very, very likely that that is not actually the person you're talking to. It's also important to never click on a link that someone sends you without checking with a trusted adult and making sure that it's a safe situation and it's a trusted person. A lot of times, if it's someone you've met online, it's probably not safe, but I recommend double checking. Also, check the websites that you're on. Make sure that it's the right URL. Are there any obvious misspellings? Does it look different than usual? Did somebody send you to a weird site? Those are all red flags. Those are things that we should be taking notice of and talking to somebody about. So always check with a trusted adult before making a new account on a website that you've never been on before. Our world is more and more online, and there's a lot of amazing things about that. There's a lot of connections that people make and ways that they express themselves that are beautiful. But just like out in the physical world, we have to be aware of our personal safety and we have to protect ourselves. So I challenge you to consider your current online habits. Are there things that you can do to be safer online? Is there a trusted adult that you can talk to about your online habits to help you be safer? I challenge you to consider your online habits. What can you do to be safer online? Ultimately, it's your responsibility and your choice how you interact with others online. But I hope that you will make choices to be as safe as possible.